I'll say there usually isn't a ton of fun or excitement or good things to come out of preseason football. We're just biding our time to the regular season. Sometimes some teams have fan bases have more reasons to be excited about the preseason than others, and certainly Bears fans are one of those teams because of Justin Fields, a young quarterback drafted in the first round, the hopeful franchise future. Bears fans are more excitable this year about the preseason than previous years for understandable reasons. A couple of good things at least came out of Saturday night's game against the Tennessee Titans. Number one, we didn't have to see stupid-ass Andy Dalton play at all. That's fine. Any allusions to him playing for the Bears, any thought or sight of him playing for the Bears makes me want to vomit in my mouth anyways. So at least I didn't have to worry about that. Number two, you got Justin Fields a little bit of tick behind the ones on the offensive line. Ooh, boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah. And number three, this is the last of the preseason games. So in 2 weeks, we got us some regular season NFL football, and it's going to count. It's one of the best things about the preseason is when it's freaking over. Yeah. And you can certainly get that vibe from watching tonight's Bears preseason action against the Tennessee Titans in Nashville. And early on, to me, the first half was really a showcase of noontime numbskull Nagy. That's what it really was. You look at that first drive. Run, then Ifedi allows a sack, punt. Your young, exciting quarterback, the guy that's supposed to be the face of the franchise, the guy who could potentially save your job, and yet numbskull Nagy on his first 2 play calls wants to go run. And then on third down runs no type of max protect concept at all for said young quarterback, so that way he gets sacked. And isn't it great to see Jermaine Ifedi already in mid-season form for somebody who you had Tardos talking about being a potential Pro Bowl level right tackle? The hell are they talking about? I don't know what's more spectacular, the fact that he didn't care to get an actual block in at all, or he followed that with really poor footwork and lateral movement to be able to protect Justin Fields in any type of way, to provide any type of obstacle or hindrance or barrier to the Titans' edge rusher as they come bearing down on the face of the franchise of the future, Justin Fields. It was real freaking reassuring. Mid-season form already. And then you had another drive in the first half because, of course, the Bears, for whatever reason, don't want to get a ton of defensive stops on the Titans. Let them run some clock so that way you get a minimal amount of time that you have Justin Fields on the field, because that's what the hell the Bears would do. Bears football! You got a 3rd and short in Tennessee territory. What are you going to do? You know what you'll do. You run a halfback dive on 3rd down. And then once that doesn't work, how about you run it again on 4th down, but from shotgun formation and still to the tailback? You got 2 chances to get a yard, maybe a yard and a half. And you didn't think at any point in time on either one of those plays that, hey, maybe let's get the best runner we have on the field at that point in Justin Fields in an opportunity where he could utilize arguably his best skill, which is as a runner. Now that would be what quality play callers, good, sensible offensive minds, and NFL head coaches would want to do in that situation. Unfortunately, the Chicago Bears have Matt Nagy as their head coach, so he did the exact opposite. This is the level of genius that we're dealing with here. And I'll say this. The son of a bitch is stubbornly digging in. And sometimes when you're that stubborn, you're going to allow your own personal bias and feelings to cloud your better judgment. And this son of a bitch certainly is doing that. Very smart. You can't face additional pressure to start Justin Fields week 1 against the Rams like you freaking should if you sabotage him with substandard to piss poor play calling. that refuses to showcase or highlight him in any way, that tries to rig it so that way people look and say, oh, maybe Andy Dalton should start week 1. Like, it's all part of a master plan by the big manipulator Matt Nagy. I mean, you're not actually trying to win football games or trying to win championships. You're trying to fucking prove yourself right. Like, there's no way to look at that play calling in the first half and think that was any damn good. There is no way to look at that play calling in the first half, conspiracy theory, whatever the hell you want to call it, and sit there and say that Matt Nagy was trying to put Justin Fields in the best possible situation to succeed. He clearly freaking wasn't. And meanwhile, you're trying to shut that shit down, and it's only going to grow more intense in the weeks to come. And I did a video yesterday, or Friday night, talking about this, and it's absolutely true. You want to ride with Andy Dalton? That's fine. You don't want to deal with your case of gingivitis? Fine. As soon as you have to bench Andy Dalton, you should be fired. That's how egregious and stupid this is. To those Bears fans or non-Bears fans that are talking about, you really want Justin Fields to start behind that offensive line in week 1. Ding dong, dumb dicks. Yes, we do. What in the bluest of blue fucks are you talking about? Of course you do. Because Andy Dalton's going to get killed even worse behind that line. Justin Fields at least has a chance to survive. Justin Fields is the vastly superior thrower. He's a vastly superior athlete. He's a vastly superior physical talent. He's the best guy for the future, and he's the best guy to put the team in the best position to win now. On every single checkbox you can put that actually matters, Justin Fields checks them compared to Andy Dalton. So, of course, numbskull Nagy's going to sit there and try to start Andy Dalton. Your offensive line excuse is weak. It's bad. It's invalid. You need to stop it. The offensive line could suck all year. And based off of what we saw tonight, you have no reason to think that anything other than that is going to occur. Are you not going to play Justin Fields a single fucking game this year because your offensive line is shit? Really? So then you're going to sit there and spend an entire year not finding out what Fields can or cannot be. You're going to sit there and waste an entire season of Justin Fields on his rookie contract where you could play him in 2021. And even if your team wins 6-11, 7-10, but he looked like he could be that dude, you potentially be thought of as a contender as soon as 2022. Now you would go into 2022 with more questions than fucking answers about anything. Because that's that mindset of the mediocrity of the McCaskey way seeping through some Bears fans and some media, specifically the fucking reach-around gang that is Bears media. Gotta toe the company line so that way you can get access you really don't already fucking get. I mean, look at that play towards the end of the first half. Justin Fields extends the play with his feet. He's rolling out, makes a great throw, as great as you could make in that spot, to Jesper Horsted. Horsted catches it. Touchdown. Andy Dalton's not making the fucking throw. So even when Matt Nagy seems to be intentionally trying to limit Justin Fields, intentionally trying to sabotage Justin Fields, he's doing those things that make it clear and obvious there is only one choice here. Like it was a little bit earlier on in the first half. If you remember on the 4th and 8 play. Of course it was 4th and 8 because it's Matt Nagy with the fucking play calling. Hits Adams on the out. Beautiful throw. Perfect location. Adams doesn't come down with it. It's a turnover on downs. I'm sure Matt Nagy's going to sit there and try and blame Justin Fields, but Justin Fields made a great play. It just didn't work. I mean, this is astounding to me. It is absolutely astounding. We're about 2 weeks away from a season that should, in a lot of ways, be the most exciting that Bears fans have seen in probably a decade and a half. And instead, making it feel like just another ho-hum, mediocre-ass season that really doesn't accomplish anything. Now, it takes a special kind of stupid to do that. And believe me, this organization is full of a special kind of stupid. And I could see it throughout Twitter tonight. You know, all these people crashing and crapping on Matt Nagy, deservedly so. I pose this question to you. If you're with me and think that Matt Nagy is a numbskull, then what does that make the general manager who fucking hired him and retained him for 2021? What does that make Ryan Pace? Somehow, Ryan Pace gets absolved of blame here. Somehow, after 6 seasons as general manager with 0 playoff wins, Ryan Pace is treated as this great general manager, and he's done absolutely nothing to deserve that. I want to be completely clear here, so there is no confusion. Jerry Angelo, through his first 6 years, was days better than Ryan Pace, and the numbers back that up. And it's the results that matter at the end of the day. He was clearly better, and it's not even close. In year 6, Jerry Angelo had built a team that went to the Super Bowl. Even after losing, 2 of their key defensive stars in Tommy Harris and Mike Brown, they still found a way to go to the Super Bowl with frickin' Turd Ferguson, Rex Grossman as their starting quarterback. But yeah, Ryan Pace is better. Yeah, Ryan Pace is great. Eat a dick. He's the one that hired Numbskull Nagy. He's the one that is allowing Numbskull Nagy to perpetuate this plan of pathetic stupidity to start Andy Dalton week 1. So if Nagy gets fired, Pace should be shown the door too. But we know the Crypt Keeper Virginia is not going to let that happen. And, Bean Counting Ted is going to sit there and say, I can't part with that many lunch meats to pay for this guy to not work here and then have to pay somebody else to bring him in. Like, it's just not fiscally responsible. And, Goofy George is going to be like, oh, yuck. Looks okay to me. Oh, gosh. Fucking idiots. You had some good standouts in this game. Jesper Horsted, this game is always going to be known as his game with the 3 touchdown catches. Went over 100 yards. Trey Roberson with the pick 6. Travis Gibson, this is a dude last year they moved up in the 5th round to go get him, the edge rusher from Tulsa. You're waiting to see something out of him. And you've been seeing it this preseason, and in particular in this game. He looked like he could make some impact off of the edge. He looked like he's a guy, and granted it's preseason and so forth, so you got to take it with a grain of salt, but he looks like a guy that's going to push for some tick in 2021. He looks for a guy that could potentially be starting in spots opposite Khalil Mack instead of Robert Quinn. He had himself a hell of a preseason, had himself a hell of a night here. He came with the pressure that led to the pick 6. He was just making plays happen. But what else stood out? The Bears' offensive line. They absolutely sucked. The hell are they coaching there? What the hell are they doing there? They look really bad. And if that shit doesn't get fixed, it's going to be a very, very long season. Now, I know there was something soothing and calming for a lot of Bears fans that as much as you look forward to the season representing hope springing eternal and refreshing anew and, the potential of optimism and everything else, you have to admit somewhere deep down in the cackles of your soul, it was very calming and reassuring in a COVID world where so many things have been changed that the Bears still play boring-ass Bears football on Saturday night. It had to be reassuring for you. John Shoup looked at this play calling and he said, I can jack off to this. Terry Shea says, I can Jonathan Quinn to that. Yeah, that's how bad this crap was. Their offensive line sucks. And for those of you who are wondering, why in the hell do you keep talking about Matt Nagy and his decision to start Andy Dalton again instead of Justin Fields? Because it is the only damn thing that matters this year. The only thing, and let's get this absolutely crystal clear, that matters for this Bears season is not what some of you dopes will be satisfied with, just like last year, backdooring into the last spot in the NFC playoffs so they can get embarrassed on national prime television in the wild card round. This season is all about Justin Fields' development. Every argument you can make about Justin Fields sitting and watching and learning is dumb and dated. Get over it. Every argument you can make for Andy Dalton starting week 1 is ill-informed, uneducated, and dumb. Think about it like this. This is the only thing that matters. Why in the hell would you bother talking about anything else? And the best way to think about your opinions here when it comes to the Bears, especially the offensive side of the ball, if Matt Nagy thinks it's the right thing to do, think the opposite thing is the right thing to do, and you'll be right. Am I the only Bears fan that just waits 2 weeks from now for this team to get embarrassed on Sunday night against the Rams? I can't be the only one fearing that, right? But maybe that's a good thing. It'll quicken the process for Justin Fields to get Matt Nagy the fuck out of town.